Hello and welcome again to this edition of FiTV. I'm your host, Brad Swanson. We are coming to you just across from the Florida Capitol. Normally, we're coming to you from Florida Internet and Television's headquarters. Today, I am joined by Carol Dover, the President and CEO of Florida Restaurant and Lodging. Welcome, Carol.
Well, thank you, Brad. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you on. Okay, Florida Restaurant and Lodging is a powerhouse in Florida politics. It's led by you. Certainly, your board members are your key assets, your grassroots. What is the number one industry looking for in this legislative session?
You know, Brad, as always, when you represent the largest employer of people in the state and 25% of the state's budget, we do feel like tourism and hotels and restaurants are the economic engine of our state. We do not lack for issues ever, any session. So it's hard to pick a number one or a number two. We have so many important issues. Yeah. But, I'll start with one that you and I both share a common bond in, and that's human trafficking. Mm-hmm. I want to give a personal shout out to our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, who has really put this up in the forefront of importance in her term. And so we will be, again, supporting legislation. And let me clarify in the past why the legislation has not passed. Mm-hmm. As a result of us having to oppose it.
Right,
and that is because there was an amendment that continued to be put on that would hold our hoteliers civilly liable if human trafficking was found in the property.
Right.
Clearly, we can't support that.
Of course.
We have spent the summer traveling around, working with the members, and I believe we have a very good common denominator now, and I think that we're all going to stay in sync and support a good, solid human trafficking bill that does not have civil liability.
Sure. Well, look, here's what we know about the restaurant and lodging industry. I mean, everybody knows the rising tide floats all boats. A healthier, a better, a safer Florida is better for everybody. Right. And we know that. We see that in your organization. But here's the trick, right? You guys are so big, right? It's easy to target that industry and say, hey, there's the deep pockets. Right. Let's go ahead and figure out a path forward to maybe make some money off of this. But
and you're right. And just a really quick point on. So what you'll see in this legislation is mandatory training.
Right.
We believe in training. We've believed in it for decades. We've been doing food safety training, and the foodborne illnesses outbreaks have gone down. So human trafficking training our employees to recognize it when they see it is far more important than going about it from a litigious way.
Sure. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I think if you look at how Florida's industry does it, we do it better than anybody else, really in the country, but also in the world, right? I mean, we're the preeminent tourism industry, and it's because we have such advocates for doing it the right way.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. So human trafficking is big. Attorney General Moody is amazing. Attorney General Bondi was great because she really, kind of lit the fire on that, and Attorney General Moody is now carrying that torch forward. So it's a great thing. Okay. So what's next?
So another issue is we've been fighting for years is short-term rental.
Right.
I hope that this year, I think most people have heard Governor DeSantis's, I'd say disapproval of the way that Airbnb has handled the West Bank. Right. I'm going to give it to you in a very simple platform. Chapter 509 regulates the hotel and restaurant industry. Right. And in that statute, if you rent to the traveling public by the day, the week, or the month, or hold yourself out for advertising, you are therefore a public lodging establishment.
Right.
All we're asking is for a level playing field.
Right.
We're not putting any major erroneous inspections on them. We think they need to get a license at DBPR so we know who they are.
Right.
They need to pay proper taxes. That's a novel idea.
Right.
And then they need to post their license number on the advertisement. Right. So if someone does have an issue, we know where to go. We know where to find them.
Right.
We are not trying to regulate the home sharing concept of the husband and wife who might have to rent a room because they're trying to make ends meet, or a veteran who's abroad and the spouse decides to rent. That is not where we're going.
Right.
But when you have a 300+ room complex that you purchased in Kissimmee, and you're going to turn that into an Airbnb, That's a hotel.
Well, level playing field has been a well-supported argument in the Florida business community for a long time, and I think for sure, you guys are standing on pretty solid ground going in for that idea.
I hope so. It's complex, though. It's got a lot of moving parts, but we're going to work hard.
It does. Well, because you think about it. You think about Uber and you think about Airbnb and you think about the convenience of technology, right? And people, they want it to work, but the trick is, well, let's make them play fairly with the rest of the community.
We've seen this before.
It is very convenient, but I will say that, Florida, again, has led the way on their tourism industry, so I'm sure you'll get it right.
Well, and speaking of leading the way on tourism, another huge issue is properly funding Visit Florida.
Right.
It's a year that Visit Florida sunsets, and for those of you who don't understand sunsetting, it basically means if the legislature chooses not to reenact that statute, they go away.
Right.
Well, tourism is again, like I said, the economic engine of our state. We don't need our marketing arm to go away. So we're a big applause for our governor for coming right out of the chute and putting in the full funding, $76 million. We hope that the House will see the importance. I think there's this misunderstanding that Visit Florida is there to promote and market all of the big attractions that we know of. That is not the case. It's the small, independent town operator that doesn't have a marketing budget that needs that. Look at what's going on in the Panhandle.
Right.
Who markets Port St. Joe and Mexico Beach?
Right.
And they need this badly. We've had algae bloom and red tide and all these areas that don't have any money to market. Come back to Florida. We're really alive and well and open for business. And so that's why it's so important that the legislature send to the governor the full funding of Visit Florida.
Well, and it's such a different argument from some of the other economic development subsidies, if you will. This really is, it's marketing, it's advertising, right? We're advertising the state of Florida, and we're doing it at the micro level for your smaller markets as much as the bigger ones that everybody already knows about. So we'll continue to look for your stamp on that issue.
We'll continue to fight the fight.
That's right. Well, no one fights it better. Okay, so the last one is one that I've kind of got an issue with, right? I don't really love my paper straws. I'm not a lover. I love my plastic straws. But what are you guys advocating for in the straw world?
Okay, so in the straw world, the one thing we don't want to see is county by county or municipality by municipality ordinances. Please understand that this is a very large industry and we need to keep uniformity across states. So preempting it to the state is not trying to take away home rule. It's trying to keep some continuity across state. Secondly, remember that we need to let these operators make their own decisions. Some of them have already, Andrews has already gone to paper straws. We also have some clients that straws are necessary. I mean, we have handicapped folks that need straws. So we need to remember that we want to, one, to keep the uniformity, but two, we think we need to let the independent operator make that decision. And they're making the decisions on their own now, just like I said with Andrews. So I think that it is an important issue. I think people ought to maybe ask by request. That's another one. And so we're going to continue to fight for the good preemption of it.
It's still, I know this is an issue you and your industry are fighting for hard, but to me, right, in America, it boggles my mind that in the state of Florida, the free bastion of America, right, that we are arguing about straws.
Well, you're going to have to then take your own straw with you,
That's
Brad,
right.
I'm afraid to tell you.
My custom straw in my pocket.
That's right.
All right, so let's talk about the entirety of FRLA. How big is the tourism industry in the state of Florida? I mean, when Carol Dover walks into the Capitol, what are you representing?
Well, we're representing Florida's largest employer. 1.4 million employees.
Wow.
25% of the state's entire budget. I've been around now long enough to see times when tourism has taken a turn for the worse after 9/11. And nobody can ever really appreciate what it brings to the bottom line, and why Florida doesn't have a state income tax.
Right.
Is primarily because we're the tourist destination of the world.
Right.
850 miles of the most beautiful beaches. So we have to continue, again, why Visit Florida is important. We have to continue to tell the world, come to Florida, because look at us now. You know, I can remember when we had 82 million visitors.
Right, and we're at
126.
What are we at?
126.
126. I mean, that took a lot of leadership by the governors and the legislatures to fund those marketing efforts.
And that only comes from proper funding.
Right.
That's 100%. I mean, I can remember when we stayed flat at 25 million in marketing money, 82 million visitors.
Right.
And as that money started to increase for marketing, our tourists started to increase.
Well, I tell you what, amongst those of us that are in the association business, we're all a bit envious of you in the way and how you run the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. You do a great job. You've got a lot of local associations across the state that look to you for your leadership. And let me tell you, the neat thing about your organization is you represent just as many small business owners as you do large business owners. People think about hotel chains, not about the independent owner. And so,
well, I thank you for that. I want to say that I have an amazing team. You know, after 24 years of being here and being honored to be their CEO, many of my staff's been with me the entire time, so I'm blessed in that way. But I want to tell you that I envy you too, because you know, you have your microphone and your ink, and you shout out a lot of great things about Florida, and we all envy the fact that you've had that opportunity, and we appreciate that you have the opportunity.
Well, we love telling the story
us a big shout out.
Of great associations representing amazing industries that really drive Florida forward and into the future, and no one's doing it more than FRLA. So Carol Dover.
I thank you, Brad. I hope your members know and appreciate you as well, what you're doing.
Well,
for them.
I remind them all the time, but you know, it's a little tough, you know. But we'll take the third party endorsement. So thank you for everything that you're doing on behalf of Florida's economy, your members, and your role in leadership within Florida's capital. So
thank you,
Carol. Thanks for coming on.
Shout out to you too.
Appreciate you,
Brad.
Appreciate you. That's all the time we have for today's episode of FiTV. We are on Facebook and Twitter, so make sure you hit us up. And for now, thanks for tuning in.